Hi, I'm Tom Gudgeon and this is my media film evaluation for BlindSight. In what ways does your media product use, develop or challenge forms and conventions of real media products? My film has been inspired by lots of different areas of media, from different camera techniques that I used, through to how I created the story. The beginning scene of my film, as the camera follows behind Simon, played by Jack Poston, was mainly inspired by a recent film called Black Swan, directed by Darren Aronofsky. This shot really stood out to me as it's a different way to communicate the movement of a character from one place to another, instead of using a simple tracking shot. Another film that has inspired my film would be American Beauty, directed by Sam Mendes in 1999. The shot that I recreated from this film is when Simon touches his future murderer. In this scene I repeat the arm touching over and over again to enhance the sensation of threat and unawareness that Simon is experiencing for himself. I feel that doing this really helped to increase the tension during the scene and help make the audience feel as though they're part of the film instead of just watching a film. It also to some extent makes the film seem more realistic as you get a better idea of how the character is feeling for themselves instead of steadily realising his own fate. I also used a few conventional tracking shots of both Simon and Craig walking into the park. These shots are similar to the ones that are used in About a Girl, directed by Brian Percival in 2001, that I spent a lot of time researching and writing about. I had quite a lot of influence from that film, but I only used a few shots and techniques into practice in my own short where they were appropriate. Film noir films have also had a big influence on my film too. I wanted to recreate the excessive use of lighting and shadows to create different moods and themes for my own short. There aren't really any specific films that scream out to me, as the majority of film noir films use the technique that I wanted to use in my own film. I think that in the last scene of my film, this technique is apparent as I used the lighting from the street light, which helped to create the ominous and intimidating shadows of my characters in the setting that I wanted, which makes it really significant. My storyline, however, may appear to be quite confusing, but I wanted to create a film that wasn't a simple story about a more observant blind character. I wanted to create a film that made the audience think and come up with their own idea of why things are happening. To be able to pull this off, I had to use a variety of subtle cues throughout the film. One cue that I used was when Craig answered the phone in the park scene. I did the voice of his mother having a go at him for hanging around with Simon.
Alright, okay mum, I'll be home in a minute.
This makes the audience have to think about why she would be saying that, and almost creating their own story from that. By my storyline not being 100% clear and objective, I think that I've successfully used one of the conventions of real media products. This is apparent because a lot of short films don't always follow a strategic storyline. This is because short film directors have a lot more choice over what they want to make, and they have the chance to make the film more appropriate to how they want to make it, as it doesn't have to appeal to a massive audience unlike how blockbuster films do. How effective is the combination of your main product and ancillary texts? Having the chance to expand on our films by creating further text from it really helped to improve on the quality of the film and its story. When making the poster, we used software called Fireworks on the Apple Macs to distort, adjust and edit images that we had to take. The images I took from my poster were taken after I'd finished my filming, which helped me to develop a clear idea for what I wanted the poster to show to the audience without giving anything away, but still enticing them to want to come and watch the film. These photos were taken on a digital SLR, which gave us the opportunity to play around with the ISO, the aperture and the shutter speed. In my photos I adjusted the shutter speed to let in slightly less light than what the camera recommended me to use, as it helped to create the shadows on the character, Simon's face. This carries on from my influence of film noir films. In addition, I adjusted the aperture of the camera so that the focus was crisp and so that only Simon was in clear view and the background, which in pre-production I cut out, was not in focus. For this I used a narrow aperture, 5.6. I didn't need to change the ISO of the image as I wasn't planning on blowing the picture up to a larger scale, which is what iOS helps you do. I took a variety of pictures in different locations and chose that I would place 3 different images together for my poster. I used the background shot, which I took when I was filming my original short, the shot of Simon and a close-up of Simon's eye. As I said earlier, we used Fireworks to edit these images together and created the final poster. To these images I added the name of the film and the credits. We also had to write our own film review for our own shorts. This was a really interesting task as we had to create it to be fair to our film and speak about the good parts and the bad parts. I chose to write my review in the style of Film 4 as I feel that the majority of my target audience are likely to read reviews on that site. This review was written in conjunction with our films, as we had to almost sell our films again to our audience and give it a star rating and an impartial appraisal. As well as writing a review for our own film, we had to create the web page that it was on, which again we used Fireworks to do. When creating this backdrop, I used the Film 4 web page as a layout, but created all the images myself apart from the Febreze images that I used on the adverts. What have you learnt from your audience feedback? Audience feedback has been a crucial part of my A2 film, simply because having to create a film on your own about whatever you want and how you want to without the support of an audience or other media students and their immediate responses is really difficult and pointless, because after all we are creating these films for our audience and not just for ourselves. Making sure I got a selection of audience responses, I posted my video in a variety of locations. I used Twitter, Facebook, YouTube and Vimeo. These are examples of Web 2.0 as people are seeking my short film and searching for it themselves. However, when it came to Twitter, I did push my film to my followers, and Facebook, I pushed my film to my friends. These two sources proved to be the best way to collect audience feedback, as responses came in quickly and effectively. These two mediums are also very helpful, as my target audience are generally avid users of these social networking sites, so the responses I got back were not only helpful but relative, as it was my target audience that viewed them. Having audience research at my disposal helped me to improve my film by changing little aspects that people had commented about. I feel that without this, my film wouldn't be as appealing as it is now that I've had a variety of responses. I've also learned that audience research, when it comes to short films, is really important, as you get a real feel for where people are coming from and what they are also interested in. Looking at an audience before making my film was a good idea, as it helped me, as I was able to gather more knowledge and details about what my audience is interested in and what they wanted to watch in general. This helped me come up with the idea that is similar to something that my audience would like to see if they were to watch a short film just out of their own accord. How did you use new media technologies in the construction and research, planning and evaluation stages? Having up-to-date technologies to create a short film has been really useful. I've used a variety of different forms of new media technologies, such as the Apple Macs, software on the Macs, the video cameras and the internet, which includes the social networking sites. For the construction phase of our films, we use digital video cameras to film our content. Having digital video cameras to film our shorts on made sure that the quality of our films was at the optimum. It decreased the import time and expanded what we were able to do whilst filming. For example, being able to use the cameras in a variety of location, weathers and lighting. We also use software on the Macs called iMovie HD to edit our films. With this software, we were able to add titles, transitions, audio and video effects. iMovie is a really easy editing suite to use, but it's still quite advanced, so we were able to add lots of different effects to one video clip and improve the overall appearance and feel of our films. I also used software called GarageBand to create sound effects and songs for my film. This meant that I could have full control and freedom to create the exact music or sound effect that I wanted. GarageBand is quite versatile and sophisticated, with a mixture of different software instruments and sound effects, so having to create a variety of different sounds and music pieces was straightforward. All the sounds in my film, excluding the introduction and end music, were created in GarageBand. For the research, planning and evaluation phase, we used a vast amount of different software tools and services on the internet and on the Apple Macs. Throughout the coursework process, we have been using a blogging site called Blogger to post frequent blog posts about everything to do with our film, be it planning, influences or our final films. This gave us a central place where we could find all of our work at ease. It also made a good place to be able to display our work and show the audience where we have devised the film from and what the different processes are to making our shorts. On top of this service, I used a presentation website called Prezi to make a more enjoyable and easy to use presentation about a variety of different topics such as my influences and my mood board. This service allowed me to create a different format of presentation instead of using the generic PowerPoint, which is very formulaic. Prezi allowed me to be a lot more flexible and create a more intuitive transitions and slides. These were then embedded onto my blog. During the evaluation phase, we use software called Adobe Fireworks, iPhoto, and Microsoft Word to create our final document, for example, our posters, reviews, and voiceover notes. Social networking sites have been used throughout the coursework to find out what the audience want to see, pushing our films to them, and receiving comments back about our films. Social networking sites are relatively new and show evidence of Web 2.0 where people search for their own media experience. I can see that Web 2.0 has happened with a tool on YouTube that shows what gender of my audience are, whereabouts in the world they are from, and how many times they have viewed a video, as long as they are signed in to a YouTube account at the time. This has really helped me with my audience feedback as well, because I know exactly where people are coming from and how many times they've seen my video. Thanks very much for listening.